Any Sexual Life is actually based on a book called Fire, Essence, Snakes is Not for Toys. And the book gathers testimonies from women in the beginning of 20th century and how the relationship was between men and women back then. And the book was so surprising that I was just shocked. But at the same time, I started understanding also what you're saying, that there's a lot of violence still in an aggression, maybe not physical sometimes, but it comes from somewhere.
Samo jaz takrat mečkina, pa še moj brat se pa sestri, ata prišel v hišo. Mam takole mal na mižnu. Mama je pa uskimava. Ata je pa poven šel. Pa nazaj prišel z gajžno.
And so I thought immediately this is an important topic and we need to talk about it, especially in this time when this kind of radicalization of conservative ideas is happening again. And so yes, I said, let's make a film.
Why the steak? It was actually Gregor Zorc wrote the script, and I think it just came up an idea because I think preparing a steak and a proper piece of meat is a very masculine way of cooking. So I think this was already like the idea behind that to approach this kind of cooking. For me it was, I guess, observing our society that still has way too much of this sort of psychological violence, way too accepted by everybody. So that's why I wanted to brought it up to speak about it. I think this multiplan technique that I've been working on now, the second film, has this very strange way of having painted things, but since it is like in different layers, it makes this realistic felt of death. So for me it's really an interesting technique because I'm always interested how it is to step like in between this realism and then a dreamy world. So that's always my temptation. I hope I achieved it by it.
So I met Emily on one festival. We both had films there, and we immediately connected and loved our film because it's the same kind of humor. And so I knew that I want to work with her one day. And when this topic came up, I also knew, because we became friends, that her aunt actually also had some kind of difficulties with talking about the relationships between her husband. And we realized that actually it's the same everywhere, you know, in Europe or in, let's say, patriarchal societies. It was the same kind of relationships. So we started collaborating, especially because her style has this kind of humor that I think could, as you said, is a counterbalance to the hard topic. And usually I have a feeling that hard topics, I think especially we can, how do you say, accept them easier, these hard topics, if they are told through humor. So I found in this Slovenian National Museum a lot of different photographs, and I'm always curious about, in my films I do a lot of mixing and discovering how different forms fit together, and this I'm very curious about. And so I put these photographs just to have a kind of a feeling of the time we're speaking about. And also what I realized at the time, that when I go from animation to these photos, it's a kind of way of stepping out from something that is not real, because animation feels that it's not real and it's a bit easier. And then when you step to the real photographs, it's a bit kind of awakening or realization of something that affects us all. And I think it's a good switch or connection between these two mediums. So in Granny's sexual life, this blackness, what I knew that I needed to, for me it's important that my films make people feel. And I knew that this is a topic that people really need to feel, the hard times that these women went through. I think if people feel, then maybe something happens or people start thinking about it. So I'm very interested in researching also the sound, and I realized that when I put the image away and just leave the blackness, the scene is extremely powerful, as it makes the viewer imagine more and enter, read with his own mind inside the film, and it was so wildly crazy that I just did it. But it wasn't so easy, because people were a bit afraid if it would work, you know. It's 1 minute of blackness, it's not something that people do. But I'm really glad that I managed to fight for it and that we did it, and it's, yeah.
Zakaj pa niso glasno? Zakaj se ne oglasiš?
I don't know, it's hard to say. It was, for me, it was very important to build up this sort of tension in the relationship, because I was all the time scared that her revenge would not be understood or would be treated too radical. So I needed this extreme situation where we would understand that this is not happening for the first time, that this is something that is actually regularly happening. And so I think this sort of visual, like not showing but being there in the smoky room, was a choice we took. Yeah, hopefully it works.